3 months ago, my sister Victoria looked me straight in the eye and said the words that shattered my world. Pack your bags, Maya. This house belongs to the family now, and you are not family anymore. Standing behind her were my parents, my brother Marcus, and my other sister Rebecca, all nodding in agreement. What they did not know was that when I walked out that door, I took with me the one thing that would destroy them all: the truth about our father's will. But before I dive into this family nightmare, tell me in the comments, have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? Hit that like button if you are ready for a story about family lies and the sweetest revenge you have ever heard. And do not forget to subscribe because this gets so much wilder than you think. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. I am Maya Rodriguez, 28 years old, and until 3 months ago I thought I had the perfect family. We lived in a beautiful colonial house in suburban Connecticut that our father David had bought 20 years earlier. After Dad died suddenly from a heart attack last year, we all assumed the house would stay in the family shared equally among his 5 children. I was wrong about everything. The trouble started when Mom announced she was selling the house. "It is too big for me," she said during our family dinner. "I want to downsize." We were all shocked, but Victoria, my oldest sister, and the self-appointed family leader immediately jumped in with a solution. "Mom, you do not have to sell," Victoria said, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Marcus just got that promotion at the bank. Rebecca and I both have our own places now. We can all chip in to help you keep the house." That is when the real plan emerged. They wanted me out. "Maya has been living here rent-free for 2 years," Rebecca added, shooting me a look I had never seen before: pure contempt. "She is 28 and still acting like a teenager. Maybe it is time for her to grow up and find her own place." I was stunned. Yes, I had been living at home since my divorce, but I had been taking care of Mom, handling all the household responsibilities, and working full-time as a graphic designer. I contributed to groceries, utilities, and helped with Mom's medical expenses after her surgery last year. "Wait a minute," I said, my voice shaking. "I have been taking care of everything here. I cook, clean, drive Mom to appointments." "And we appreciate that," Marcus interrupted, but his tone said otherwise. "But Victoria is right. You need to be independent. We have all talked about it, and we think it would be best if you found your own place." The word "we" hit me like a punch to the gut. They had been talking about me behind my back, planning this. "What about Dad's will?" I asked desperately, searching for some legal ground to stand on. "Did not he leave the house to all of us?" Mom looked uncomfortable. "Maya, sweetie, your father left everything to me. The house, the savings, everything. I can do whatever I want with it." That night, I could not sleep. Something felt wrong about the whole situation. Dad had always been so careful about legal matters, always talking about making sure all his children were taken care of. It did not make sense that he would leave me with nothing. The next morning, while everyone was at work and Mom was at her book club, I went through Dad's desk in his study. I had cleaned out most of it after he died, but I remembered seeing a manila folder marked "Important Documents" that I had never fully examined. Inside that folder, I found something that changed everything. It was a copy of Dad's real will dated 6 months before his death. And according to this document, Dad had left the house not to Mom alone, but to all 5 of his children equally. The house was supposed to be held in trust, with Mom having the right to live there for the rest of her life, but ownership belonged to all of us. But there was more, much more. I found bank statements showing that Mom had been transferring large sums of money to Victoria's account money from Dad's life insurance policy that was supposed to be distributed among all of us. Over the past year, Victoria had received over $200,000 that should have been split 5 ways. My hands were shaking as I photographed every document. There were also emails printed out between Mom and Victoria discussing how to handle the Maya situation and make sure the house stayed in the right hands. One email from Victoria made my blood run cold. "Mom, we need to get Maya out before she starts asking too many questions about the money. Rebecca and Marcus are on board. We will split everything 4 ways instead of 5. Maya has always been the weak link anyway. The weak link. That is how my own sister saw me. I realized then that this was not just about the house. This was about money, inheritance, and greed. They had been planning to cut me out of everything Dad left behind, and they needed me gone to do it. But the most shocking discovery was yet to come. Hidden in the back of the folder was a sealed envelope marked, "For Maya, open only in case of emergency." Inside was a letter from Dad written just weeks before his death. "My dear Maya," it read, "if you are reading this, something has happened to me, and I am worried that your mother and siblings might try to take advantage of you. I know you have been struggling since your divorce, and I know they sometimes see your kindness as weakness. But you are the strongest of all my children, and you have always been the one I could count on to do the right thing. That is why I am trusting you with something very important." The letter went on to explain that Dad had discovered Mom was having an affair during the last year of their marriage. He had hired a private investigator and had evidence of her infidelity, but he had never confronted her about it. Instead, he had changed his will to protect his children's inheritance from her potential betrayal. "I made sure the house would belong to all of you," the letter continued. "But I also made sure that if anyone tries to cheat you out of your inheritance, you would have the power to stop them. Check safety deposit box number 437 at First National Bank. The key is taped under the bottom drawer of my desk." I found the key exactly where he said it would be. That afternoon, I drove to the bank with shaking hands. Inside the safety deposit box was a mountain of evidence, the original will proof of Mom's affair documentation, of Victoria's embezzlement from Dad's estate, and something else that made my jaw drop. Dad had been secretly recording conversations in the house for months before his death. There were hours of audio files on a digital recorder, including conversations between Mom and Victoria, planning how to manipulate the inheritance discussions about my worthlessness, and even recordings of Mom talking to her lover about how much money she would have once David was out of the picture. I sat in that bank vault and cried, not just from heartbreak, but from rage. These people, my family, had been plotting against me while I took care of them, cooked for them, and grieved with them. But Dad had given me everything I needed to fight back. Armed with the truth, I knew I had to be strategic. I could not just confront them with the evidence; they would find a way to discredit me or make the documents disappear. I needed a plan that would expose them publicly and legally. First, I contacted Dad's original lawyer, Robert Harrison, who had written the real will. When I showed him the documents, his face went white. "Maya, this is serious fraud," he said. "Your mother filed a fake will with the probate court. Your sister has been embezzling from the estate. This is criminal." "What can we do?" I asked. "We need to file a motion to set aside the probate of the fake will and expose the fraud. But Maya, this is going to destroy your family relationships. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about Victoria's sneer when she called me the weak link. I thought about Marcus and Rebecca nodding along with the plan to throw me out. I thought about Mom's lies and betrayal of Dad's memory. "They destroyed the relationship first," I said. "I am just going to make sure everyone knows the truth." We scheduled a family meeting for the following Sunday under the pretense of finalizing the house arrangements. I told them I had found some of Dad's old paperwork that might be relevant to the estate. That Sunday, they all gathered in the living room where Dad used to read his newspapers. Mom, Victoria, Marcus, Rebecca, all of them looking smug and self-satisfied, thinking they were about to finalize their victory over me. "Maya," Victoria said with fake sympathy, "we know this is hard for you, but we have found a nice apartment complex about 20 minutes away. The rent is reasonable, and we think it would be perfect for you to start fresh." "How generous of you," I said, pulling out a folder. "But before we talk about my future, I think we should talk about Dad's will." Mom shifted uncomfortably. "Maya, we have been through this. Your father left everything to me." "That is funny, Mom, because I found a different will in Dad's desk." I pulled out the real will and placed it on the coffee table. "This one is dated 6 months later than the one you filed with probate court." The color drained from Victoria's face. Where did you get that? From Dad's study, the same place I found these. I spread out the bank statements showing the money transfers to Victoria. And these. I added the emails about getting rid of me. And this. I placed the letter Dad had written to me on top of the pile. The room went dead silent. Marcus was staring at the documents with his mouth open. Rebecca looked like she was going to be sick. Mom was gripping the arm of her chair so tightly, her knuckles were white. Maya, Victoria said, her voice no longer commanding, but desperate. You do not understand the situation. Mom needed that money for medical expenses and— Stop lying, I interrupted. I know about the affair, Victoria. I know about all of it. I pulled out my phone and played one of Dad's recordings. His voice filled the room from beyond the grave. She thinks I do not know, but I have known for months. Victoria keeps encouraging her, telling her she deserves to be happy. They are planning something, and I am worried about Maya. She is the only one who really cared about this family. Mom started crying, but not tears of sadness, tears of panic. I also know that you filed a fake will with the probate court. I continued, looking directly at Mom. And that Victoria has been embezzling from Dad's estate. I have all the evidence, and tomorrow morning I am filing a motion with the court to expose everything. Victoria jumped to her feet. You cannot do this. You will destroy the family. The family, I laughed bitterly. You mean the family that called me the weak link? The family that planned to steal my inheritance while I was taking care of everyone? That family was already destroyed. Marcus finally found his voice. Maya, maybe we can work something out. We do not need to involve the courts. Oh, but we do, I said. Because this is not just about money anymore. Dad trusted me to make sure justice was served, and that is exactly what I'm going to do. Rebecca tried a different approach. Maya, please, think about what this will do to Mom. She is already grieving Dad. Do not make this worse. Mom made it worse when she decided to steal from her own children, I replied. And you made it worse when you decided to help her. I stood up and gathered my documents. Here is what is going to happen. Tomorrow, my lawyer is filing fraud charges against Mom and embezzlement charges against Victoria. The real will is going to be submitted to probate court, which means the house belongs to all of us equally, just like Dad wanted. Victoria's mask finally slipped completely. You ungrateful little— Careful, I warned, because I also have recordings of what you really think of me. Would you like me to play those too? She fell silent. I am leaving now, I announced. But do not worry about finding me that apartment, Victoria. I will be fine. After all, I am about to inherit a fifth of this house, plus a fifth of everything Dad actually left us. As I walked toward the door, Mom called out desperately, Maya, please, we can fix this. We can work it out as a family. I turned back to look at them one last time, Mom crying. Crocodile tears, Victoria seething with rage, Marcus looking confused, and Rebecca just staring at the floor. You are right, Mom. We can fix this. The court will make sure everything gets fixed properly. That was the moment I truly left them behind. Not just physically, but emotionally. The people I had called family for 28 years had revealed themselves to be strangers who saw me as nothing more than an obstacle to their greed. But I was no longer the naive, trusting daughter they thought they could manipulate. I was my father's daughter, and I was going to make sure his wishes were honored. The next morning, I sat in Robert Harrison's office as he filed the legal paperwork that would turn my family's world upside down. Within hours, the fake will was challenged, and an investigation into the estate fraud was officially opened. Maya, you need to prepare yourself, Robert warned me. They are going to fight back hard, expect them to try to discredit you, claim you are lying, maybe even try to have you declared mentally unstable. He was right. By that afternoon, my phone was blowing up with calls and texts from family members, extended relatives, and even family friends, all telling me I was making a huge mistake and begging me to drop the legal action. But not everyone was against me. The first ally came from an unexpected place. My cousin Jennifer, Mom's niece, called me that evening. Maya, I heard about what happened, she said. And I need to tell you something. My mom has been worried about your mom for months. She has been acting strange, spending money like crazy, and bragging about her new life after Uncle David died. Jennifer had more information than I expected. Her mother, my Aunt Lisa, had been suspicious of Mom's behavior ever since Dad's funeral. Mom had been making expensive purchases, taking luxurious trips, and talking about renovating the house, all while claiming she needed to sell it because she could not afford to maintain it. There is something else, Jennifer continued. My mom saw your mom at dinner last month with some guy. She looked really cozy with him holding hands and everything. Mom thought it was weird because Uncle David had only been gone for 8 months. This confirmed what Dad had discovered about Mom's affair. But more importantly, it meant I had witnesses to Mom's suspicious behavior that went back months. Jennifer, would your mom be willing to testify about what she saw? Absolutely. She loved Uncle David, and she has been worried that something was not right. She will help however she can. My second ally emerged from my professional life. My best friend Sarah, who worked as a forensic accountant, offered to help me trace the money trail that Victoria and Mom had been hiding. Maya, what they did to you is disgusting, Sarah said when I showed her all the evidence. But more than that, it is stupid. They left a paper trail a blind person could follow. Give me access to your dad's financial records, and I will map out every penny they stole. Sarah worked late into the night building a comprehensive analysis of the financial fraud. She discovered that Victoria had not just taken the $200,000 I had found, she had been systematically draining Dad's accounts for over a year, totaling nearly $400,000. Maya, this goes back to before your dad even died, Sarah explained, showing me her charts and graphs. Look at these withdrawals. They start about 6 months before his death, right around the time he changed his will. The pattern was clear: someone had been slowly stealing from Dad while he was alive, and that someone had access to his accounts. Since Mom was the only other person with access, it meant they had been working together to steal from him for months before his death. Do you think Dad knew? I asked. Based on when he changed his will and started recording conversations, I think he figured it out and was building a case against them. But the most surprising ally came from within my own family. 3 days after I filed the legal motion, my youngest brother, Jake, called me. Jake was only 23, fresh out of college, and had always been the family peacemaker. I expected him to try to convince me to drop the lawsuit. Instead, he said, "Maya, I know what they did to you, and it is not right." I was shocked. "Jake, what do you mean?" "I have been staying at Marcus's house since the big family meeting, and I heard him and Rebecca talking. They knew about the real Will, Maya. They have known all along." My heart stopped. "What did you hear?" "Rebecca was panicking because she thought you might find Dad's letter. Marcus was telling her not to worry because you were too soft to actually follow through with legal action. They were laughing about how you probably did not even understand what the documents meant." Jake's voice was shaking with anger. "Maya, they think you are stupid. They think Dad was stupid too. Victoria said Dad was senile when he changed his will and that the court would never honor it over Mom's version." This was the smoking gun I needed. Not only had they committed fraud, but they had done it knowingly and deliberately. They had manipulated our grief, stolen our inheritance, and planned to gaslight me into believing I was entitled to nothing. "Jake, would you be willing to testify about what you heard?" "I will do more than that," he said firmly. "I will help you get more evidence. They do not know I am on your side, so I can keep listening and recording their conversations." Over the next 2 weeks, Jake became my inside informant. He recorded Victoria admitting she had forged some of Mom's signatures on financial documents. He got Marcus on tape saying they needed to make Maya look crazy so the court would not believe her. He even recorded Rebecca discussing how they planned to claim Dad had Alzheimer's to invalidate his real will. But the most damning evidence came when Jake recorded Mom talking to her lover, a man named Richard, who turned out to be Dad's former business partner. Richard, what if she really has all those recordings David made? Mom's voice was panicked on Jake's phone recording. What if he knew about us all along? Relax, Patricia. Even if he knew, he is dead now. And that daughter of yours does not have the backbone to use anything against her own mother. But Victoria says Maya has lawyers now. What if they can prove I filed the wrong will? Then we stick to the story. David was not thinking clearly in his final months. The will he left with you is the one that matters. As for the money Victoria took, we will say it was for your medical expenses. What about the recording of us talking about Maya? We will say David was paranoid and delusional. Maya will look like a vindictive daughter trying to hurt her grieving mother. Listening to that recording, I finally understood the full scope of their betrayal. This was not just about money. It was about completely rewriting history to make Dad look like he was incompetent and me look like a villain. But they had underestimated three crucial things: Dad's thoroughness in documenting their crimes, my determination to honor his wishes, and the power of the truth when it is backed up by evidence. By the end of the month, I had built an unshakable case. I had the original will proving their fraud bank records, proving Victoria's embezzlement, recordings proving their conspiracy, witnesses proving Mom's affair and suspicious behavior, evidence proving they knew they were committing crimes. Robert Harrison reviewed everything and smiled for the first time since I had met him. Maya, this is not just a strong case, this is a guaranteed victory. With this evidence, we can not only restore your inheritance, but also pursue criminal charges against all of them. I was ready for war, but I had no idea that my own allies were about to become my biggest threat. Just when victory seemed certain, everything fell apart in the most devastating way possible. It was a Tuesday morning when Robert Harrison called with panic in his voice. Maya, we have a problem. Jake wants to recant his testimony. My blood turned to ice. What do you mean, recant? He showed up at my office an hour ago saying he made everything up. He claims he was angry about the family fighting and fabricated the recordings to get back at Victoria and your mother. I could not breathe. Jake was my star witness, the insider who had captured their admissions of guilt. Without his testimony, we would lose half our evidence. Robert, that is impossible. I heard the recordings myself. They were real. Maya, I believe you, but Jake is now claiming he used voice simulation software to fake them. He says he was trying to help you, but went too far. I immediately called Jake, but his phone went straight to voicemail. I drove to Marcus's house where he had been staying, but no one answered the door. It was like my little brother had vanished into thin air. That afternoon, things got worse. Sarah called with devastating news. Maya, I am so sorry, but I cannot testify anymore. What, Sarah, why? Someone broke into my office last night. They did not take anything valuable, but all my analysis of your family's financial records was stolen. Every chart, every document, every piece of evidence I compiled gone. My heart was pounding. Did you have backup copies? Yes, but Maya, there is more. This morning I got a call from my boss. Someone filed a complaint against me with the state licensing board claiming I was conducting unauthorized forensic investigations. If I get involved in your case any further, I could lose my license. I was watching my case crumble in real time. First Jake, now Sarah. Someone was systematically destroying my support system. But the final blow came that evening. I was sitting in my hotel room trying to figure out how to move forward when my phone rang. It was Jake. Maya, I need to see you. Can you meet me at Dad's grave? An hour later, I found Jake sitting on a bench near Dad's headstone, looking like he had not slept in days. Jake, what is going on? Why did you lie to the lawyer? He would not look at me. Maya, I am sorry. I cannot help you anymore. Why? What happened? That is when he finally looked up, and I saw something in his eyes I had never seen before: fear. They know, Maya. They know about everything. Who knows? What are you talking about? Jake's hands were shaking as he pulled out his phone. Victoria found out I was recording them. She went through my room and found everything. He showed me a text message from Victoria. If Maya pursues this any further, We will make sure everyone knows about your gambling problem and the money you stole from Dad's workshop last year. I stared at the message in shock. Jake, what money? Last year, when Dad was getting sicker, I was really struggling with debt from college and some stupid bets I made online. I took some money from Dad's workshop safe, about $5,000. I was going to pay it back, but then Dad died and I never got the chance. My heart broke for him, but I was also furious. Jake, why did you not tell me about this? Because I was ashamed, and because Victoria said if I testified against them, they would not just expose what I did, they would frame me for stealing much more. They said they could make it look like I took $50,000 and that I was the one who had been embezzling from Dad's accounts all along. Jake, that is blackmail. We can fight this. No, Maya, we cannot. He was crying now. Victoria showed me documents, fake bank records that make it look like I was stealing from Dad for months. She said, if I do not recant my testimony and disappear for a while, they will send those fake records to the police and make sure I go to prison. I felt like the world was spinning around me. So you are just going to abandon me? Let them get away with everything? Maya, I am 23 years old. I cannot go to prison. I am sorry, but I cannot help you anymore. As Jake walked away, leaving me alone in the dark cemetery, I realized how completely I had been outmaneuvered. Victoria was not just smart, she was ruthless. She had anticipated that I might find allies and had prepared weapons to use against each one. The next morning brought even worse news. Robert Harrison called to tell me that Mom and Victoria had filed a countersuit against me. They are claiming you fabricated evidence that you forged your father's letter and that you are trying to defraud the estate, Robert explained. They have character witnesses saying you have been unstable since your divorce and that you have a history of lying and manipulation. Character witnesses who? Your ex-husband, for one. Apparently, Victoria contacted him. The betrayal cut deep. My ex-husband David and I had divorced amicably. We remained friends and talked regularly. The idea that he would testify against me was incomprehensible. There is more, Maya. They found a psychiatrist willing to testify that the stress of your father's death and your divorce caused a psychological break that led you to create an elaborate fantasy about family conspiracy. That is insane. I have all the evidence. Evidence they are claiming you fabricated. Without Jake's testimony and Sarah's financial analysis, it becomes your word against theirs. And Maya, they have 5 family members willing to testify that you have been acting erratically for months. I hung up the phone and sat in my empty hotel room feeling more alone than I had ever felt in my life. Victoria had turned my own allies against me, destroyed my evidence, and convinced the world that I was a delusional, vindictive daughter trying to hurt my grieving family. For the first time since finding Dad's letter, I wondered if I should just give up. But then I remembered something Dad had written. You are the strongest of all my children. He had trusted me to fight for the truth even when everyone else gave up. I was not going to let him down, even if it meant going to war alone. Rock bottom has a way of clarifying things. Sitting in that hotel room, stripped of allies and facing character assassination, I made a decision that would change everything. If my family wanted to play dirty, I would show them what dirty really looked like. The next morning, I did something I should have done weeks earlier. I went back to Dad's safety deposit box. This time, I was not looking for evidence I already knew about. I was looking for anything I might have missed. Hidden in the very back of the box, tucked inside an old business envelope, I found something that made my hands shake. A business card for Detective Maria Santos, with a note in Dad's handwriting, Maria, trusted friend. If anything happens to me, she will know what to do. David. I called the number immediately. Detective Santos. My name is Maya Rodriguez. My father was David Rodriguez and he left me your card. There was a long pause. Maya, I have been waiting for your call. Your father contacted me 6 months before he died. He was worried about his family and asked me to keep an eye on things. You knew about the fraud. I knew your father suspected fraud, but he died before we could gather enough evidence to prosecute. Maya, can you meet me today? There are some things you need to see. 2 hours later, I sat in Detective Santos's office staring at a file folder with my father's name on it. Your father came to me last year claiming someone was stealing from him, Detective Santos explained. He had evidence of unauthorized bank transfers and forged signatures, but he wanted to be absolutely certain before he accused his own family. She opened the folder revealing photographs, bank records, and surveillance footage I had never seen before. We had just started building a case when your father died. The investigation was suspended because we thought the victim was gone. But Maya, you are his heir, which means you can press charges on behalf of his estate. Detective, my family has been claiming I fabricated evidence against them. They have turned everyone against me. Detective Santos smiled grimly. Maya, they cannot claim you fabricated police evidence. And they definitely cannot claim you fabricated this. She handed me a DVD. 3 weeks before your father died, he came to the station and gave an official statement about the theft. Everything is on video. I watched in amazement as Dad's face filled the screen. He looked tired and sad, but his voice was strong and clear as he detailed exactly what Victoria and Mom had been doing. I have tried to give my wife Patricia the benefit of the doubt, but the evidence is overwhelming, Dad said to the camera. She has been working with our daughter Victoria to systematically steal money from our family accounts. They think I am too sick and distracted to notice, but I have been documenting everything. He went on to describe the fake signatures, the unauthorized transfers, and even Mom's affair with Richard. I am making this statement because I am afraid something might happen to me, and I want to make sure my children, especially my daughter Maya, who has been caring for me, are protected from this theft. When the video ended, Detective Santos looked at me seriously. Maya, this is not a civil matter anymore. This is criminal fraud, elder abuse, and conspiracy. Your family committed felonies against a dying man. What can we do? We can do what your father wanted us to do from the beginning. We can arrest them. Over the next week, Detective Santos and I worked together to build an airtight criminal case. She had resources I could never access as a private citizen: subpoena power, forensic accountants, and the ability to seize records that Victoria and Mom thought they had hidden. The investigation moved quickly. Bank records confirmed every transfer Victoria had made. Handwriting analysis proved Mom had forged Dad's signatures. Phone records showed thousands of calls between Mom and Richard during Dad's final months. But the breakthrough came when Detective Santos tracked down Richard himself. Maya, we picked him up this morning, she called to tell me. And he is talking. Faced with criminal charges, Richard had no loyalty to Mom or Victoria. He confessed that he and Mom had been planning to steal Dad's money for over a year. He admitted they had hoped Dad would die quickly so they could access his life insurance and estate without interference. Most damning of all, Richard revealed that Victoria had approached him about taking care of the Maya problem by framing me for elder abuse. Richard gave us everything, Detective Santos explained. Phone recordings, text messages, even emails about how they planned to discredit you. Maya, they were never just trying to steal your inheritance, they were trying to destroy your life. But my new ally had not just been Detective Santos. In the midst of building the criminal case, I received an unexpected call from someone I had never met: Dad's longtime business partner, Robert Tanaka. Maya, I heard about what your family did to you, and I want to help, Robert said. Your father was like a brother to me, and he talked about you constantly. He was so proud of how you cared for him. Robert had his own evidence to contribute. As Dad's business partner, he had noticed the suspicious financial activity months before Dad died. He had copies of business records that showed the full scope of Victoria's embezzlement. Maya, your sister, did not just steal from your father's personal accounts, Robert explained. She also embezzled from the business. We are talking about over $600,000 total. Robert also revealed that Dad had left instructions for the business to provide me with a job and a steady income if anything happened to him, another provision that Victoria had hidden from me. Your father wanted to make sure you were taken care of, Maya. He knew your family might try to cut you out, so he made arrangements through the business to protect you. With Detective Santos building the criminal case and Robert Tanaka providing business records and a job offer, I finally had the support I needed to fight back. But more importantly, I had something Victoria could not steal or destroy, the truth backed up by law enforcement. The tables had turned completely. Victoria thought she had neutralized all my allies and destroyed my credibility. She had no idea that Dad had been working with the police all along, or that his business partner was prepared to testify against her. On a cold Thursday morning in December, Detective Santos called with the news I had been waiting for. Maya, the district attorney, has approved the charges. We have warrants for your mother, Victoria, and Richard for conspiracy, fraud, elder abuse, and embezzlement. We are making the arrest today. What about Marcus and Rebecca? They will likely face charges as accessories, but we are starting with the main perpetrators. As I hung up the phone, I felt something I had not experienced in months: hope. Not just hope for justice, but hope that Dad's faith in me had been justified. I was about to watch my family face the consequences of their betrayal. And unlike their attacks on me, these consequences would be real, legal, and permanent. The arrests happened exactly as Detective Santos promised. Victoria was taken into custody at her office, Mom was arrested at the house, and Richard was picked up at his apartment. Within 24 hours, the local news was running stories about family estate fraud and daughter seeks justice for deceased father. But the real satisfaction came 3 days later when I attended their arraignment. Seeing Victoria in an orange jumpsuit standing before a judge as criminal charges were read against her was a moment I will never forget. The woman who had called me the weak link and told me I was not family anymore now faced 20 years in prison for her crimes. Mom broke down completely during her arraignment, crying and claiming she had been manipulated by Victoria and Richard. But Detective Santos had recordings of her laughing about Dad's death and planning how to spend his money. Her tears meant nothing to me anymore. The legal proceedings moved swiftly. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Victoria eventually pleaded guilty to embezzlement and fraud in exchange for a reduced sentence. She got 8 years in prison and was ordered to pay full restitution. Mom pleaded guilty to conspiracy and elder abuse. She received 5 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 3 years if she continued to cooperate with the investigation. Richard, who had provided the most evidence against his co-conspirators, received 3 years and was banned from any involvement in financial services. But the criminal convictions were just the beginning of their consequences. The probate court immediately invalidated the fake will and restored Dad's original will. The house ownership was transferred to all 5 children equally, just as Dad intended. Victoria was forced to liquidate her assets to pay restitution, which meant she lost her own house, her car, and her savings. More importantly, the truth about their conspiracy became public record. Everyone who had believed their lies about me, including my ex-husband who later apologized profusely for his testimony, now knew the real story. Marcus and Rebecca, who had escaped criminal charges, faced their own reckonings. Marcus lost his promotion at the bank when his employer learned about his involvement in the family fraud. Rebecca was forced to testify against Victoria and Mom to avoid prosecution herself, which destroyed what remained of their relationship. But the sweetest justice was not legal, it was personal. Jake, who had been terrified into betraying me, contacted me a month after the arrests. "Maya, I know I do not deserve your forgiveness," he said through tears. "But I want you to know that I never stopped believing you were right. Victoria threatened me and I was scared, but I should have trusted you." I hugged my little brother tightly. "Jake, you were 23 years old facing people who had been planning this for years. I do not blame you for being scared. Can you ever forgive me?" "There is nothing to forgive. You are my family, my real family." Victoria and Mom proved they never were. Jake and I began rebuilding our relationship, bonded by the truth and by our shared love for Dad. Robert Tanaka kept his promise and offered me a position at Dad's old business, which gave me financial security and the chance to honor Dad's memory through his work. Detective Santos became an unexpected friend, checking on me regularly and helping me understand the legal process. "Your father would be so proud of you, Maya," she told me. "He knew you were strong enough to see this through." Sarah, my forensic accountant friend, was cleared of all charges once the truth came out. The complaint against her had been filed by Victoria using false information, which added another charge to Victoria's growing list of crimes. Even cousin Jennifer and Aunt Lisa became closer allies, forming what Jake and I started calling our chosen family people, who proved their loyalty through actions, not just blood relations. The house where I had been told I did not belong now legally belonged to me as much as anyone else. But instead of moving back in, I used my inheritance to buy my own place, a smaller, happier home where I could build a life based on truth instead of lies. 6 months after Victoria's sentencing, I received a letter from her in prison. She claimed she was sorry and asked if we could reconcile as sisters. I threw the letter away without finishing it. Some betrayals are too deep for forgiveness, and some people prove they are not worthy of second chances. But I did not throw away everything from my past. I kept Dad's letter, his recordings, and all the evidence he had so carefully compiled. Not as weapons anymore, but as reminders of a father's love and the importance of standing up for truth, no matter how difficult it becomes. The money I recovered from the fraud, over $600,000, that Victoria had stolen, went toward paying off my student loans, buying my house, and setting up a college fund for any future children I might have. Dad's life insurance, which was finally distributed correctly, provided security I had never experienced before. More importantly, I learned that family is not determined by blood alone. Real family consists of people who support you, believe in you, and stand by you when everything falls apart. Jake, Sarah. Detective Santos. Robert Tanaka. Jennifer and Aunt Lisa became my chosen family people who earned their place in my life through loyalty and love. Looking back now, I realize that Dad's letter was not just about protecting my inheritance. It was about teaching me to value myself and to never accept betrayal as normal family behavior. Victoria thought calling me the weak link would crush my spirit. Instead, it freed me from caring what people thought who had never truly cared about me. The last time I visited Dad's grave, I brought flowers and a copy of the final court judgment. "We did it, Dad," I whispered. "Justice was served, and the truth won." I know he would be proud not just of the legal victory, but of the woman I became through fighting for it. These days, when people ask me about forgiveness and family loyalty, I tell them what I learned from this experience. Loyalty must be earned and re-earned every day. Blood relation is not an excuse for betrayal, and sometimes the most loving thing you can do is hold people accountable for their actions. Family secrets and betrayal can destroy lives, but they can also reveal who truly loves you and who just sees you as convenient. The people who stayed by my side when I had nothing to offer but the truth proved themselves to be worth more than all the money Victoria ever stole. So tell me in the comments, have you ever had to choose between keeping peace and seeking justice in your own family? How did you handle betrayal from people you trusted most? I know these stories can be painful to share, but sometimes talking about them helps us heal and helps others feel less alone. If this story taught you anything about standing up for yourself or recognizing toxic family dynamics, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about justice, karma, and finding your real family. Share this video with anyone who might need to hear that they deserve better than betrayal disguised as love. Thank you for listening to my story and for supporting my journey from victim to survivor to someone who refuses to let injustice win. Remember, you are stronger than you think. Truth is more powerful than lies. And sometimes, the family you choose is better than the family you were born into. Until next time, keep fighting for your worth and never let anyone convince you that you deserve less than honesty and respect.